those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Isaac. I guess writing this was a bit hard just because it's just kind of hard to look back on all 4 years, especially freshman year. It's a long time ago, but I think if I have to think about just all this coming in freshman year, I would say I had 2 goals. Some of y'all could probably guess one of them. Get a girlfriend. And the second one was to change myself. Whether or not those 2 goals are accomplished, there's still a couple weeks in the semester. But in all honesty, though, I did come into college with this idea that I would be really more so in charge of everything, that I would, that like pretty much that I would be able to really be like the boss of my own life and not really have God as much in the equation. And for those of y'all who know me more so today, that did not happen. But so that was more so freshman year, and then going into sophomore year, I was really developing in my walk with God. And one thing that kept on happening was that I really had this ideal of perfection, of trying to be perfect for God, trying to come to Him perfectly. And like I would talk with my LCG about this all the time. And the funny thing about perfection is it's not possible. you would think I would know that, but it really wasn't until more so junior year that I kind of really started realizing this and realizing that I should come to God just as who I am. And then going into junior year, I think if I was to say a theme for that year, it was, I'd say, joy and pain. It's kind of interesting though, because you would think with the word joy that, thank you, that it would seem like I was actually happy, but I think junior year was actually my lowest point of my entire career, because I was more so searching for joy the entire year, and I guess I was thinking that the semester would end, or the year would end even better, but as it ended, it actually came to my lowest point where one of my really close friends, his life and the life of a lot of the people were changed, and it kind of just left me a bit lost and just confused for a while. But then, like I said, coming into senior year, I'd say one of the things, or the theme for this year, I kind of realized was more so hope and peace, because I started, like specifically this semester, I came to a place where I kind of started having more peace about a lot of things, and even though the future and all that stuff is looming right around the corner, there's still like this sense of peace in me that I know that it can't be anything I've done.
Hello. Okay. This is really scary. There's a lot of you. Okay, so I guess when I started college, I was an atheist, and then I accepted Christ during my first Easter service through a video testimony where I saw how God restored people. And then after I accepted Christ, I didn't really know anything about the gospel itself, so I had to learn how to pray, basically all the other stories in the Bible that's not the gospel, and then I basically didn't know what else to do, so I just did what seemed right. I got baptized, I joined a ministry team, and then I had my LCGs, I met up with them, I participated in OCR and now the Campus Mission Week. I basically tried to offer my time to do what seemed right. And then towards the second semester of my junior year, the responsibility really got to me and I got really tired of everything. I wondered if my life would be better without God. So as the school year ended, I basically tried to start my summer without God. I stopped doing devos, I stopped going to church. I tried to go back to my own life where it seemed more free. And it felt good at first. I didn't have to think about anything. But soon after I started working, I felt like something was wrong. I constantly felt very incompetent, and I really hated myself for not being able to be the person I wanted to be. And I realized that it all stemmed from me placing my identity on people's opinion instead of God. So I went back to my summer life group and to see if anything would change. So through each Bible study, I was able to really stop focusing on myself and see God's work. As I read about how people kept rebelling against God, even after He had saved them, like God still gives grace and mercy to them, and that God still loves them and provides them ways to come to Him. I think at that point, God's goodness was really evident and irresistible to me, and I became hopeful again, knowing that God is truly good and He will never give up on me. I wish I could end my testimony like this and say that now I'm in a great place and I have strong faith, but actually, just as I felt more comfortable with my faith, going to senior year, I struggled a lot. So I always tend to focus a lot on my work, and little by little, I kind of stopped showing up to service. I broke a lot of connections I have with people in the church. And I surrounded myself, by the time I noticed, I basically felt really distant from God again. And I surrounded myself with people that I thought that I really want to be with. But once again, as I chased after idols, I struggled more, and it hurt me more than ever. So I started really seeing myself as a worthless piece of trash, and I wish I didn't exist. I feel like the world would be better without me. But God truly brought me back to Him during congregational retreat. One day I woke up, I think it was a Saturday morning, I woke up to two questions that God put in my mind. One is, do you really believe that I'm good? The second is, do you believe that I love you? And I realized I couldn't say no to any of those questions. So regardless of how I thought of myself, God loves me, and the state I was in was not what God wants for me, and that He's good and He will never give up on me. So even as I speak now, I'm still pretty weak in my faith, and I'm walking slowly back to Him. But I can confidently say that God is good, and that although my journey will be long, I'm in His hands. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I freely admit that Jialin turned off the mic. Yeah, so I admit that I was writing my testimony like 30 minutes before I was walking in here, so it's still pretty unpolished. Actually, Jack, I have a request. Can you turn off the music? Thanks. Basically, I'd just like to say that honesty is something that I've always valued, and that's going to be basically the core of what I'm going to be talking about today. I think it's important not to be just honest with yourself, but also with others, as that is the way that I'm able to examine my flaws as well as work and improve on them. So what I'm going to be talking about today is just moments in my time here at UT where I've struggled with honesty. And I guess the first one is a pretty big one, and that is my degree, chemical engineering, guys.
Woo!
Don't choose that degree. I mean, I chose it out of pride because I wanted to do something that others couldn't. It's actually a great major. For fun people. But I found that I disliked it. And that was something that's really hard to admit to myself. But once I was able to admit that I did not like my major, it strangely freed me to actually search for a reason to work hard in it despite my dislike for it. And that reason was that I found was that in everything, I want to be a good steward of what I've been given and do anything that I've been given to glorify God. And so moving on to a second point, another thing I really struggled with was, I'm sorry, but serving on helps. And this was really a twofold problem. One was definitely because of like overwhelming responsibility sophomore year. I just had so much on my plate. And also because I think I felt like helps would be a stepping stone to what I really wanted to do, which was be on worship team. And I think this was again a case where I chose to do things for the wrong reason, and led to things being unbearable when I realized things got tough. It honestly would have been best if I had just said up front what my desires were and articulated where I wanted to be, rather than looking to be in something for the sake of getting a leg up. And laying out my desires allows the other party to work with that knowledge. And yeah, so it's actually something that I deeply regret. When I tore my ACL the year before, and I had surgery sophomore year, and all I could feel was relief when I got surgery because it actually got me out of a lot of my responsibilities. But it ended up being like a deep burden to the rest of my team members, which is something I do regret. And lastly, I think the hardest thing to talk about is my struggle with my faith and being honest with that. But I do think that it is something that is important to talk about, which is why I do feel the need to say that, yes, I am currently struggling in my faith, but I guess what I believe is that if I'm honest with myself and if I constantly seek out the truth, at least I'll be able to recognize the state that I am in and continue to grow from there. So I intend to seek God with that mindset, and I would ask that you guys pray for me in the coming future. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Cindy. Okay. I'm gonna read from my phone. Really quick. One of the things I learned in college is that I'm not in control of my life. God is. I came into college not knowing really how to live a life surrendered to Christ. And I'm now about to leave with a life that is still far from perfectly surrendered, but it's all thanks to God's grace that I can continue to strive after Him. And despite my continued sins and imperfections, God's taught me a lot of truth. During my first year of UT, He planted the seed in my heart to live a life for Him. God knew what was best for me, and it seemed so logical to just surrender it all because I didn't know anything as a freshman. For me, the process of surrender involved two questions. In my first life group, we were asked, will you go to heaven? And I had to think really hard. But eventually I realized that the answer was a resounding yes. Even though I'm not perfect, it's not based on what I'm doing. I can go to heaven because Jesus died for me. The second question I had was, what if what God has called me to do was hard? To answer this, God gradually gave me the confidence in knowing that He will be there with me and that He has prepared me for whatever He's called me to do. It seemed so easy my freshman year. From then on, God has been revealing all the idols that I had in my life. What I initially viewed as so simple proved to be much more difficult when the sinfulness of my heart was considered. It was easy to give up my life when I had no worries and I was carefree, but when I was met with troubles, it was hard to cling on. Sophomore year, I found myself and my family in financial hardships, and the catch was that while finances were hard, I had a flexible job that made me fully capable of supporting myself if I had the time to work. I remember calculating the wages. If I stopped life group, access, my ministry team, I could just go to church on Sundays and fully support myself. But I didn't, so there I was in this weird middle ground of not knowing how to pay rent the next month, but also feeling so guilty if I missed one event. I was also so lonely because I found myself in a place where I didn't know if people really cared for me. Those were some of the many lies of Satan to which I was so vulnerable at that time. One day in that time of desperation, God spoke to me. I came home from church one day just overwhelmed with the situation, and that as much as I wanted to be at peace and fully confident in God during the struggle, I wasn't. And I started crying, just asking God to show me that He loved me. He came to me in a really powerful way, and I remember Him saying that I have always loved you. Why can you not see it? And there was such weight in that when He said it that I immediately felt so foolish. My situation didn't suddenly become better, but God did provide, and here I am. I lost my place. Throughout the years, He's taught me to show the same grace He's given me to others, constantly reminding me to give all the credit to Him, even when I want to lift myself up and pat myself on the back. During this past retreat, I was so prideful that I thought God seeking after me was His job and His duty. Yet God was able to graciously soften my heart, even when I was trying so hard to hold on to my pride. I'm going to leave UT thankful for the work that God's been doing in my life through Harvest. Continuing to live for God is not going to be easy, and I will really have to fight my laziness. I will fail many times, but I know God's grace will always be there, as it has been over and over again.
Hey guys. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I'm really nervous. So yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Nicholas, or Nick, or Danny, and I'll be walking this spring. And I guess being a senior, it's weird looking back at just like how many things have happened. I'm not emotional, I'm just like really nervous. So yeah, it's really weird. I mean, I remember coming here freshman year. I didn't know anyone. I was like, oh, it's like America. It's like I've seen it. And like, you know, I was literally one of those fresh off the boat Asians. Like, oh, what's a burger? It's like, I'm just kidding. I knew a burger. Yeah, before going to UT, a lot of my close friends we had like this thing where we like went to go to school abroad, and like I guess everyone's choice would be to go to California, and I decided to go to Texas. Like, whoa, are you gonna go see the Cowboys? But I felt lonely because I didn't know anyone here, and it was very intimidating just to go here, land a new culture and a new environment. You know, like not being surrounded by 90% Asians and all that, and it was scary. I think going to college, I didn't really have high hopes because of it. I thought I was just going to be one of those lonely, quiet people because, well, I am quiet naturally. And it just made sense to kind of assume that it would be like that. And it's funny how things so much have changed now that I'm a senior. I've definitely grown a lot as a person. I think that I'm very thankful for God planning to put me here in Texas and not in California, like just putting me out there where I don't know anyone. It's really made me discover who I am as a person. It really kind of like helped me press that reset button on who I was and kind of like start new and develop my own personal identity. And I'm really glad that as I develop, now that I'm a senior, that God has become part of that identity. I think in a way, I've always known that God's always watching over. you know, like whenever I'm cramming for school exams, or like when I sleep through like 15 minutes of my exam and like trying to run there. He's like the one who's turning all the red lights green. So it's been a really good experience. I didn't think I was gonna have this great of a time in college. There's been a lot of, I just really enjoy the moments where we just spend some like candid moments with friends, or just like those like late night deep talks, or like when we just like sit in someone's place and like watch Netflix because we don't really know what to talk about. I'm really glad that I've gone here, and I'm very thankful for it. And I'm really thankful for the friends in the community that I met throughout college. They really helped me build this confidence in myself, and just like knowing that I'm not a quiet, boring person, and no one is. So, thank you.